Hello, this is Burke Lyle here, and I want to give a few thoughts about the Field of Dreams game that took place in Iowa. Just a few things I heard about the game. Number one, it was a great game. The White Sox won 9-8. Just an all-around great game. And again, this was a White Sox team last night that was up by the score of 7-3, including 7-4 in that ninth inning. And ultimately, it's a game where Tim Anderson ends up hitting a walk-off home run as the White Sox were down by the score of 8-7. The White Sox end up winning 9-7. And just if you think about a baseball game being played in Iowa at the Field of Dreams, which I've seen that movie. I think I've seen it twice. Saw it again last year. It was a good refresher. It is a good movie. I do recommend watching the Field of Dreams. Sorry, I had a little distraction there, but it was but just to see the type of baseball game that it was, where this game was delayed by a year. It was supposed to happen last year. I think last year was supposed to be White Sox and Cardinals, which if you think about Iowa, it's not far from Chicago. I mean, it is a little way away. It's sort of the equivalent of having the Cubs kind of having a regional following throughout the Midwest. Same thing with the Cardinals. It's sort of like this. The Braves having fans in Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee that are a good number of hours away, but driving distance from Atlanta, where the Cubs, yes, they have fans in Iowa, Wisconsin. In fact, where that field was, that town is like Daresville, Iowa. Started with a D. It was, I think I heard it was about 30 miles away from Wisconsin, the Wisconsin border. So again, Iowa, if you think about it, there's Iowa State, there's Iowa, Iowa's in Iowa City. I know there's Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I think there's a minor league team there. Maybe there used to be. There's a couple minor league franchises in Iowa. I think a couple of them might have been discontinued, kind of the Midwest League, which is low A baseball now, high A baseball. So you have just that. So again, it was attended by about 8,000 people, and I heard the ticket prices for that game were some of the most expensive in baseball history. I think it was the fourth most expensive ticket in baseball history in terms of average price. The most and heaviest were the World Series games in Chicago, games 3, 4, and 5 back in 2016. So you think about all those games, all these games, and you think about it, certainly most expensive in regular season history. Most regular season baseball games are not, I mean, they can be expensive. Like I've seen Red Sox Yankees. You could look at the Subway Series. I mean, a Friday night, Saturday night, maybe a team's really good. Maybe tickets are a little pricey to a certain extent. But you think of all the most expensive tickets in baseball history. Obviously, the Cubs 2016, yes. But when you look at this game played in Iowa, since again it's a special location, a baseball game, regular season game had never been played with Major League Baseball in Iowa. You know, Iowa will never get a major professional sports franchise, and what I mean is they will never get like a Big Four team in terms of what you see NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB, NBA, that type of magnitude. But 8,000 fans were there. I think there's a mix of White Sox fans, certainly some Yankees fans. I guarantee there's Yankees fans in Iowa. There's Yankees fans everywhere. I'm sure there's some White Sox fans in Iowa as well. Say if you're from Chicago or throughout the Midwest, you have plenty of fans there as well. So 8,000 were there. But you think about all expensive tickets. You think about World Series in Washington, D.C., not anywhere near expensive as this game, I guess. World Series games the past couple of years, yes, very pricey. Not at this level, or playoff games for that matter. Not at this level. Very expensive, good crowd. You know, I thought they showed some good shots of the cornfield, the original baseball field, kind of good shots of Iowa. One of my favorite shots is I think it was kind of in the early innings, middle innings, I'd say. You know, about Iowa and Central Time Zone at 8 o'clock in Iowa, which amazed me. It was almost dark in Iowa, pretty much dark. It was basically twilight. It's a beautiful sunset. I'm glad the weather was good in Iowa. I'm glad they're able to play that game there. Major League Baseball is going back next year, which just, and in fact, if there's one thing in baseball that is constant right now, that happens a lot is the home runs, and we were not disappointed. If you think about players at home runs, Jose Abreu hit a home run. Aaron Judge hit a 3-run home run during the game. Eloy Jimenez hit a home run, which, boy, has he been good. I mean, he's really putting on a show recently. Big addition for the White Sox. It was 7-3. Brett Gardner hit a home run, 6th inning. And then the 9th inning, Aaron Judge hits a home run. He hit 2 home runs in that game, so did not disappointment. And Giancarlo Stanton, go at home run. And then, obviously, Tim Anderson, the walk-off home run. So think about all the home runs that we saw. I mean, if you count it, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 home runs. 8 home runs, including 2 from Judge, Stanton, Jimenez, Abreu, guys who you expected home runs. And then Tim Anderson hitting that walk-off home run. Just a great treat. It's a regular season baseball game. It is 1 of 162 for each team. Now, I think it'll be memorable in some ways, since A, you saw the walk-off home runs, you saw 8 home runs in that game, and it was in a special venue. I mean, if this was a regular season game in Chicago, I mean, if you're a White Sox game fan, yeah, you might remember that game. But this was a game that took place at a special location. And granted, it's just one baseball game, but I think fans got treated to a good game. And again, nationally televised games in baseball. Again, if it was a regular White Sox-Yankees game, being a baseball fan, I might have watched it. Maybe not. I don't know. But this was a special game in a special location. It's interesting how Major League Baseball, throughout the day, they scheduled a bunch of day games, and they basically no head-to-head East Coast games. Yes, there were a few West Coast games that were scheduled for afterward, but I saw how the league scheduled, how this game was pretty much exclusive in that window. So if you're a baseball fan, you wanted to see that game. The league, I think, did a good job of setting it up. Again, starting at 7 Eastern time, right, 6 o'clock Central time in Iowa. So I enjoyed watching that game. That Anderson home run was a special home run. And for the White Sox, as you look at them right now, currently 11.5 games up on both the Tigers and the Indians right now in the American League Central, which this is kind of hard to believe, knowing that the Tigers have surpassed the Indians, which for years and years, obviously the Indians were clearly better than the Tigers by a far and wide margin. Now, maybe that direction is starting to reverse, but either way, White Sox look like they're in position to win the Central, and they have an 11.5 game lead. I think the Central is pretty much all but over. No team in the Central is even, in fact, the White Sox are the only team in the Central that is even above 500. They're 20 games above 500 as of right now, where no other team, in fact, the 2 second-place teams, the Tigers and the Indians, each 3 games below 500. Tigers at 57 and 60, Indians at 55 and 58. So the Tigers ended up playing. In fact, if you look at it, they ended up playing a few more games than the Indians did right now. And then you look at the last place, potentially you have Minnesota and Kansas City, each 17.5 games back. So the Central is all but over. It'll be interesting to see who finishes in second place this year. Maybe the Tigers, it's an optimistic second place. Indians could be a team on decline, potentially. The Twins. Now, it's funny, they won 100 games 2 years ago, won the Central last year. They had an interesting fall. You wonder if this is a one-year kind of thing or whether they're going in a different direction. I don't know. I mean, falls can happen pretty quickly. Like the Twins won back-to-back Central Division titles, and they had a really good run. And then they, in 2011, I think they lost 99 games and they missed the playoffs, I think, 6 years in a row. Did not make it to the playoffs again until 2017. So it's interesting how that happened. And just sometimes teams just, for whatever reason, one reason or another, just kind of fall off. And whether it's expected, whether it's unexpected, sometimes that does happen. I mean, the Tigers were really good for years and years and years. They fell off. Had some really, really bad years. Now they're kind of right around 500. Look like a team potentially on the rise for that matter. There, it's interesting if you look at the AL East standings. The Yankees right now currently in third place in the East, about a half-game lead on the Blue Jays, 2 games back of Boston. That's for that second wild card spot. Red Sox 5 games behind the Rays, which that division. I mean, think about the East. Just a few short weeks ago, looked like the Red Sox kind of had a good lead. I think they had a 2.5-game lead. I remember the Rays came in and swept them on, including on Sunday Night Baseball. And then ever since then, the Rays have pretty much taken over the East. In fact, the Rays actually have the best record in the American League right now, and it's unbelievable. I mean, no Glasnow, no Morton. He's in Atlanta on a team that could borderline playoff team. And then no Snell out in San Diego. 3 best pitchers last year in the playoffs. Good rotation, good guys who you could depend on. Thought there was a chance all 3 could be back. Glasnow's out for the rest of this year. He had Tommy John surgery. That's another story. Yet the Rays, they're in first place once again, and look like they're going to win the division. So either way, the White Sox, who maybe on paper, if you look at names in terms of starting pitchers, in terms of guys in the lineup, and the White Sox have not been anywhere close to healthy all year long. In terms of a team they are, I think the White Sox are potentially American League favorites right now based on paper. I think it's them right now. I mean, we'll see. I'll talk more about the standings later, but a game like this, does this potentially propel the White Sox? Yes, it's a game they should have won. Liam Hendricks blew a save. All-star closer. I think they said that was a 6th blown save of the year. In fact, he did blow a save. That is his 6th save of the year. Yet he did end up getting the win. Lance Lynn, not his best start. Had to labor through 5 innings for them. In that game, the game took almost 3.5 hours. So it was a good game. Definitely, if you're from Iowa and you went to that game, since again, I guess you could go to Chicago, maybe you could go to St. Louis. I guess you could travel to places in the Midwest, but to see a baseball game in your home state, that is obviously a special occasion. So again, if you're someone who lives in Iowa and that's the first MLB game you've been to, or one of the only few games you go to. Granted, maybe you go to a couple games a year throughout the Midwest every couple of years, who knows? But that's about as good as a game as it can get. And yes, it's just one game, but really good game, really well played. It was at the Field of Dreams game. Rematch between the Yankees and White Sox in the playoffs. I think in order for that to happen, the Yankees would have to get a wild card, and I think they'd have to beat the Rays, or potentially in the first round, White Sox win their series, or potentially the White Sox get hot, surpass the Rays, maybe the Yankees win a wild card. So it could happen in the playoffs. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. So, point is, we just have 7 weeks left of the baseball season. I mean, in 7 weeks from now, it's going to be the end of the regular season. It's going to be October. We're going to have October baseball this year. Unlike last year, we're not going to have 16 teams. We're going to have 10 teams this year in the playoffs. In fact, looking at the standings right now, in terms of where we stand, so in the American League East, it looks like it's going to be the Rays, Red Sox kind of falling downward, trending downward. Yankees, Blue Jays trending upward. All 3 of those 4 teams are 7-3. Red Sox 3-7. The lone exception, obviously, the Orioles are in another picture right now. But looking at those teams, I think the Blue Jays are on the rise. They'll probably have future playoff appearances in their future, I think, especially if you expand the playoffs. Central, just talked about that, all but over. West, the A's are really getting hot. You know, I saw a stat the other day, Starling Marte hitting over 500. That was a couple days ago in the month of August. So, again, big trade line, deadline addition for them. The A's making things interesting with the Astros. Right now, 4-6 in their last 10 games right now. So that's what the standings look like out west. So if I had to say who's going to win the East, probably the Rays. I just think the Yankees and Blue Jays, I don't know if they can get hot in time Probably the Rays. The way the Red Sox were trending downward, I don't think so. Probably the Rays. White Sox, Central, or Central White Sox. Yes. West. It's a little bit more interesting. I'd say that I thought for sure the Mariners made things interesting with the A's in the wild card race. I think it's probably going to be the Astros based on their history. But the A's, the way they're going, don't count the A's out. Again, the A's won the West last year. The Astros had to settle for the wild card. Or no such thing as a wild card, and they were below 500. And they ended up beating the Twins in that first round. Then the Astros actually came back and beat the A's in 4 games in just the playoffs. Just a completely new season. And then you had the Astros in the LCS. And down 0-3, thought it was over. Took the Rays to a 7th game and just an incredibly wild series. And the Astros, a team that was below 500 in the regular season, almost went to the World Series. Just last year was last year, obviously. But the Astros, and you wonder how much longer they're going to be good. I mean, no Cole, no Verlander. That was the case last year. That is the case again this year. Greinke is kind of now their ace. Was their number 3 starter 2 years ago. So obviously the Astros, well, yes, they've fallen a little bit. I mean, if you look at their record right now, 68 and 46, so 114 games, 48 to go. A lot of teams have about right around 50 games left to play. Let's say you win 28 games, 96 games, 28 and 20, not bad, 96 games. Then you potentially win that. Then you probably win the West, unless the A's continue to get hot. So it's interesting. So if you want to look at this, I just want to look at this stat right here, run differential. You look at the best ones, Astros 158, White Sox. It's interesting, 130. No one else, everyone else in the division is negative. It's funny, the Mariners have a negative 49 run differential. Blue Jays actually 129, striking, bizarre. Yet they would win the East, yet they're in 4th place in the AL East. Yet somehow the Yankees one is just 15. How that happens, I don't know. Maybe when they win, maybe they win big. I don't know. It's mind-boggling. It really is. In terms of run differential. So that's kind of the West right there. National League East, believe it or not, the Braves have a 59 run differential, and then Phillies and Mets negative, which is pretty interesting, 15 and 13. So anyways, Phillies, I think they're going to win. It's going to be East. I don't know. Not even going to begin to speculate who's going to win the East right now. Phillies, obviously Wheeler, Cy Young finalist for sure. I think Wheeler has a shot to win the Cy Young. Outside of DeGrom being hurt, I would say it would be Wheeler who would potentially win the Cy Young. Maybe Woodruff or Burns in Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee has a finalist or two. Probably Corbin Burns, the way he's pitching. 15 strikeouts, 10 straight in a row earlier this week. Maybe Buehler has the lowest ERA in the National League. Potential candidate there. Walker Buehler. Phillies, Bryce Harper, his RBI total is shockingly low. I guess, you know, when he hits home runs, can't help it. There's just no runners on base. And Phillies could potentially win the division. They could have a Cy Young and MVP. May or may not make it to the playoffs. If they do make it to the playoffs, that could be the deciding factor right there. Mets, no DeGrom, no Lindor. A lot of injuries this year, yet they've managed to be in first place through most of the year. The Braves, they're almost in first place. Obviously no Acuna, no Soroka. They do have a good, and seeing the Braves play in person, seeing their lineup night in, night out. You have Jorge Soler has a shot at home run every night in, night out. You have Adam Duvall who can hit a home run at any given time. One of the league leaders, I think has 26 this year. Swanson for the Braves having the best year of his career, 20 home runs. Really hitting well. Austin Riley really emerging this year. Freddie Freeman's been really high. I think he's hit over 400 since the start of July. So you have those factors in right there. So you have the Freddie Freeman, who's been spectacular this year. So the Braves, it's going to be interesting whether they win the division or not. Just Acuna, that's just completely devastating. You could have thought that would have been it right there, but the Braves have been right around 500, finally above 500 at this point in the year. Finally above 500, and then being a game back. So again, you have, and then the Nationals did their fire sale, 1-9. They've just gotten worse and worse since the trade deadline. Obviously, the Nationals have decided to retool, and it has shown. You know, it's kind of funny. They had Kyle Schwarber red hot 6 weeks ago. I think hamstring injury, out for the year. Had 25 home runs. Still one of the league leaders in the National League. Hasn't played in 6 weeks. And then another thing, Acuna, still one of the league leaders in the National League. Hasn't played in 5 weeks. Unfortunate. If they would have been healthy, I think they would have been well over 30. Really, really too bad. It just what happened. But for the Nationals, they have decided to implement a major sell-off. So that was an interesting move there. So again, who wins the East? Again, the Mets without DeGrom, without Lindor. The Mets offense really hasn't been there this year. I've seen them always ranked in the bottom categories in terms of offensive production. Phillies, it's going to be interesting. I think Wheeler and Harper are the keys down the stretch. Those are their two biggest factors right there between Zach Wheeler and Bryce Harper. Central, it's going to be the Brewers. Yes, the Reds are 8 back. The Cardinals 11 back. Cubs are just kind of in a league of their own. They're 13 games below 500. Completely have fallen off. At one point in time, 2 months ago, we thought maybe they can make a run with this current group one more time. It didn't work out that way. They just fell off starting in June, and then into July, and then through the trade deadline, that's when they kind of started selling off. They traded the big three. Obviously, Baez is on a borderline playoff team with the Mets. That was in first place when they got him. Not in first place right now. Rizzo on a borderline Yankees playoff team, COVID IL. Bryant on a Giants team that has the best record in baseball and in the National League. And really surprised people. I mean, the Giants, I thought the Giants would probably finish maybe in 3rd place this year, maybe 4th place. Did not see the Giants being this good. They are, I believe, the favorites in the West right now. So going back to that, just the Cubs with their sell-off. The Cardinals, right around 500 this year. Reds, again, they've had time to look like they're right there with the Brewers. Also in that wild card mix. Lost a series against the Braves. The Brewers, again, I can't talk enough about them. What really stands out to me about the Brewers and why they're so good, big three, top of rotation, Burns, Woodruff, Peralta. I mean, think about that. In the playoffs, best out of 3. I mean, in terms of a big three, right? Off the top of my head, trying to think of a big three. In terms of who to match up with throughout baseball, the Brewers have that spot. They have really good starting pitching, which again, 3 years ago, Peralta, Burns, Woodruff all came out of the bullpen in the playoffs. Yes, they did have some starting experience. 2 years ago, Corbin Burns completely crashed as a starter, and then last year's when it really took off. I don't know what it was, but for some reason, whatever struggles he went through in 2019, those seem to be behind him. In fact, just talking about of Zach Wheeler, Corbin Burns, I think, probably could win the Cy Young. I think it's definitely a finalist. It should be. Maybe Woodruff as well. Again, Woodruff emerging as a starter 2 years ago, made the All-Star team in 19, and then Peralta this year, first full year as a starter. I think all 3 of them made the All-Star game this year. And then you have like Adrian Hauser, Brett Anderson, Eric Lauer, and then obviously bullpen for the Brewers is good. Not great. Josh Hader, they just got Josh Hader back. So again, if in the playoffs, if you can get those guys, each one of them, 6, 7 innings, and then give it to like Devin Williams, who again is not as great as last year, obviously, but Devin Williams, Josh Hader at their very best. Good luck with that, right? Good luck with that. And that's something the Brewers, in fact, 3 years ago, the Brewers didn't have starting pitching. 2 years ago, they didn't have it when they lost that series, that game in the Nationals. I didn't think that Brewers team was going to go very far. Now they do have it. Last year, 500 team, 60 games, fine. This year, they're that team in the National League, and it is the Brewers. So, in terms of divisions, let's go now out west. You have the Giants and the Dodgers and the Padres. Dodgers 5 games back, Padres 9 games back. You know what? The Giants have started to separate themselves from the rest of baseball. They've won 5 in a row. And in terms of the Giants, I think it's a mixture of things. I think their starting pitching is really good. I mean, if you look up their current team right now, I think the biggest strength for them is starting pitching. Kevin Gausman, his season that he's having, 11 strikeouts per 9, 23 game start, 11 wins, 2.29 ERA. Yes, it's gotten a little up in recent weeks and months, but that's the way it is. Obviously, currently on the IL, they do have a few injuries, but just the Giants starting pitching, having a really good rotation for them. I think they have a really good bullpen. Offense has turned out to be really good and has turned out to be a strength for them right now. I've hit almost 200 home runs this year, and just the Giants being a really surprised people. I mean, last year they barely missed the playoffs. This year, definitely the surprise of baseball. The Dodgers, in many years, they are 69 and 46. In many years, they could be leading the West easily and having the best record. They actually have the second best record or third best record, one less win than the Brewers. Yet the Dodgers currently second place, and Kershaw's on the IL. Cody Bellinger is yet to hit 200. I think he's really starting to get it going in August, though, from what I've seen in August. But Bellinger missing most of the year, and ineffective when playing until recently. Mookie Betts just went on the IL for the second time, and when he was playing, did not look like an MVP candidate. Corey Seager missing most of the year with injuries. Yes, they did get the big Scherzer and Turner deal, but right now the Dodgers, let's just say Kershaw can get healthy by September, and hopefully has enough strength to be a starting, can have a, throw 80, 90 pitches, whatever, 5-6 innings in a playoff game. You hope he can go that far, but Kershaw, Scherzer, Buehler, Kershaw, Urias, that's a really good starting pitching rotation. Plus, you have Tony Gonsolin coming out of the bullpen, David Price, Trevor Bauer. His leave just keeps getting extended more and more and more. He hasn't pitched in 6 weeks. What happened with Bauer? You wonder what his future for the Dodgers is. But what happened with him? Major concerns. So you have that right there. Dodgers have had a lot of injuries. Padres maybe getting, I just read about it actually yesterday. I think Tatis could come back this weekend potentially, or next week soon, and could play outfield as well, maybe because he's had a lot of shoulder issues. I think he's dislocated his shoulder. I think I read something like 4 different times. He's been on the IL twice. Might be getting off-season shoulder surgery to correct that issue as well. But again, if there's one, Tatis has had a lot of injuries, missed half of 2019, his 3rd time in the IL. If he was healthy this year, didn't get hurt at all, he would have won the MVP. Him and Acuna, it's really too bad. It really is. But if you can get Tatis back, that would be critical for the Padres. And they may settle in 3rd place. The Reds are making it interesting. So, in terms of the wild card race right now, and again, I thought I'd just be talking about the Field of Dreams for 5 minutes. Instead, I've jumped into the divisions. The divisional chase right now. So obviously the A's have a 2-game lead on the Red Sox, who have a 2-game lead on the Yankees, Blue Jays, then you have the Mariners. Then the rest of the league, you have Dodgers 4 up on the Padres, who are 3 up on the Reds, Mets 5.5 game back, Braves, Cardinals, kind of those teams in that, and that's really it right there. Then there's a a steep drop off. So if you would have had 7 teams making the playoffs, again, baseball is talking about expanding the playoffs. So you're just thinking about 7 teams. You'd have the Yankees and Blue Jays. So that's 4 teams from the East, and then you'd have the Padres, the Reds, and the Mets or Braves. So potentially 2 teams from that Central division. So that's what the playoffs would look like. So at the end of the day, the Rays have the best record, so it'll be Rays against either the A's or the Red Sox. As of right now, Red Sox do not feel confident in their starting pitching. Looked it up. I mean, they have a kind of a mix of their starting pitching. Don't really have a really good starter. Red Sox do not. Then you go down that list. Padres, in a game like that against the Dodgers, you might have a Scherzer, Yu Darvish, winner take all, do or die game. That's probably what it would be. In that wild card game, as of right now, since the Giants have a 5-game lead, yes, the Dodgers could get hot and surpass them. Maybe the Giants win 98 games, play pretty good baseball, okay, win 98 games or something like that, and then the Dodgers win 100. I mean, you could see that. That could happen. But as of right now, the Dodgers will be playing the Padres, and they have a Dodgers-Giants matchup. And the Brewers, I think they'd be heavy favorites, whoever they played against in the East. Since, again, big 3 Brewers. So just kind of let's play a little game. And this is off the top of my head, so I don't have a whole lot of numbers in front of me, but just off the top of my head, Brewers big 3 right now. So right now, the Brewers would play the Braves. Anyone on the Braves as good as Woodruff, Burns, or Peralta? No, not even close. I mean, who would the Braves run out? Would it be Morton, Fried? Trying to think, Morton, Fried. I mean, you could go with Kyle Muller, Ian Anderson, who's just coming back from injury. I mean, don't even try. Don't even try. In fact, no one on the Braves is as good as Peralta. In fact, anyone on the Braves would be a Brewers' 4th starter. Okay. How about how about the Phillies? Again, Wheeler. You know what, Wheeler? I could say he could be the 2 starter. What a big 4 that would be. He would be the 2 starter, I think. I don't think he's as good as Burns, or maybe the 1 starter. Wheeler, Burns, Cy Young. That's a close race. I think they're the 2 front runners. Okay, but then Nola this year 4 starter. He'd be a 4 starter on that team right now. Obviously, I think the Dodgers would be number 2 in terms of starting pitching rotation, depth, and then you save that, and then and then the Phillies. I'm trying to think. I mean, maybe Vince Velasquez or Zach Eflin. I mean, Phillies after number 2 really drops off. Ranger Suarez is actually one of those stars now, but no, not even close. Okay, so now you go with after that. You would go with, so you have the Phillies. So, Phillies. How about the Mets? Again, DeGrom, number 1 in Milwaukee. That would be a great big 4 rotation, okay? So, DeGrom, yes. But he's hurt, doesn't qualify right now. So, now you have Taijuan Walker, Marcus Stroman. No, they'd be a 4-starter in Milwaukee. They would be. Trevor McGill, Rich Hill. All 4 starters in Milwaukee, so no. Dodgers, if you had to match up against them, Dodgers. So I'd say Scherzer. Yeah, Scherzer I think would be a number 1 guy in Milwaukee. You'd have to make him the ace. Burns, Woodruff 2 and 3. Wow. So okay, right, just head to head. Since again, it's no question who's the best head to head. Who has the best pure rotation? Are there any starters better than the Brewers' big 3? Scherzer, yes. Buehler, I would put Buehler in that rotation. I mean, it's close. I would say Burns is better than Buehler this year. Obviously, in terms of just pure dominance, I think Buehler could start game 1 for them. And then obviously Kershaw, Urias. Yes, Urias has high win totals. You hope you get Kershaw back, healthy in time for the playoffs. That would probably be the best pitching matchup. I think there'd be probably Brewers and Dodgers. Giants, they do have good pitching. Yes, Anthony DeSclafani, who can go deep into games, and Johnny Cueto are both on the IL, so that leaves you with Alex Wood and Logan Webb. not to mention Kevin Gausman. The Giants, when healthy, I think they could. Now, head-to-head, name per name, Brewers are better, but I think the Giants could have at least a decent shot of matching up. So that's kind of in terms of pitching, best pitching. What about the Rays? The Rays, in their rotation, is kind of interesting that they did trade Rich Hill. It's kind of a young, I think it's Shane McClanahan, Luis Patino, kind of all young, early 20s caliber starters right then and there. I think it's and Ryan Yarbrough, Josh Fleming. That's the Rays rotation kind of off the top of my head. If I had to say it off the top of my head right now, no, not even close. Red Sox, no. A's, no. White Sox, you know what? White Sox. Think about it. Lynn, who is leading the American League in ERA, just throws a lot of fastballs, has had some high strikeout total seasons. Rodon just got hurt, missed yesterday's game. Giolito, and then Cease can go out there and dominate. He can get double-digit strikeouts. I don't think he's put it all together. Looking at his numbers, is not there yet. And then you have a veteran, Dallas Keuchel. Two teams right there in terms of all the playoff teams. White Sox, best rotation in the American League, no question about it. The Astros, I think they have a pretty good rotation. Not great by any means. Just trying to look at it. Since it's Greinke, McCullers, both good. Luis Garcia, Rookie of the Year candidate. Framber Valdez, healthy. Thought could have been their ace at the beginning of the year. Jake Odorizzi, you know what? Astros rotation's good. I think good, solid, but not anywhere close to the level of the White Sox. Just saying, off the top of my head. So with that right there, obviously the Astros would not match up with the Brewers. Obviously, I think the closest teams in terms of if you had to rank the playoff rotations, I think it'd be White Sox and Brewers. In terms of 1 through 5, certainly 1 through 3, who you want in games 1, 2, and 3. So, point is, series playoffs start right now. And I've gone way over time. But just talking about best playoff options right there in terms of teams. I would say that it would be Brewers number 1. I'd have to say Brewers number 1. White Sox, I'd say number 2. Dodgers number 3. Astros number 4. What about if you had to rank division winners? The Giants, when healthy, okay, so it'd be the Giants. So again, Brewers head-to-head, Phillies, or any of those teams, they'd win by a mile. The only guy of any of those teams that I would think would have a shot to even be in the rotation right now would be Zach Wheeler. Or even match up against the big three, Zach Wheeler. The Dodgers, they have 2 guys who I think could, in terms of caliber pitchers. Giants, no, but you don't know what's going to happen in a baseball game. The Giants could beat the Brewers. So as of right now, if I had just ranking on starting pitching from each league, I would say the World Series matchup would be White Sox-Brewers. That's what I would think would be. One thing the Brewers do not have, offense. Offense, that's their weakness, is offense. Since we want to look at teams with offense, Phillies, Harper might win the MVP, okay. Mets, no. Braves, you know what? No for a while, maybe yes now. I think they I don't know how deep of a playoff run they can make. I mean, maybe the Braves on paper look like a team that would just go one and done in the playoffs. They probably look like one of the most likely teams to lose in the division series. Really any team from the East, especially the Braves. Yes, in terms of Brewers, that's one thing they don't have. I mean, if they went up against the Giants and the LCS or Dodgers, no. Padres, no. Right then and there, no. They cannot compete against their offense. That's on paper. On paper, those teams have better offenses. In terms of the American League, playoff teams, Red Sox, no. Rays, I don't think so. I think it's close. I think they're kind of similar. White Sox, no. Astros, no. So, again, if I really wanted to look at it, I'd have to do a deep dive study on my own. But in terms of who's the best team in baseball is right now, as we speak, we're approaching mid-August. We're about less than 3 weeks away from September. We are 7 weeks away from the end of the season. The playoffs will start in 53 days from now. which is actually the MLB playoffs are right around the corner. So if you had to say the best teams and just going over it again. So right now, let's just go rapid fire. Just to review of what I said earlier of who would win the East. Right now, I would say in terms of winning the East, I'd say it would be a number of teams. American League East, go. Probably the Rays. Not certain, probably. Central, White Sox, no doubt. West, I think the Astros, but it could be the A's. All right, remaining playoff teams. Looks like it'll be Red Sox, A's, Yankees, Blue Jays, all of a shot. National League East, no idea. No idea. Could be the Mets. I just don't know if they can sustain anymore. Could be the Phillies. Could be the Braves. Don't know. Central, Brewers. West, probably the Giants, but I think the Dodgers could get hot and win. I wouldn't be shocked if that happened. I'm not saying the Giants would collapse, but I'm just saying the Dodgers could just get so hot that they could end up doing it. Could be like the Brewers when they won the Central a couple of years ago. So that's who I think would win the divisions. Best team, I think, in baseball. I think the most likely pennant World Series matchup. It's hard to say. You know what? In terms of pitching and offense, probably the Dodgers, at least on paper. Again, it's been the Dodgers have won 3 pennants in a row, or 3 out of the last 4. The only year that they didn't, they won 106 games, and they couldn't finish a series against the Nationals. That was the only year the Dodgers did not appear in the World Series in the last 4 years. The Astros have appeared in the last 4 LCSs. Wouldn't be surprised if it happened again. Now, depending on how the season finishes, they could end up playing the White Sox in the first round, and then they'd be underdogs. So, as of right now, in terms of who's in the World Series, I think the team to win the American League, I'd say, is the White Sox. They're my favorites right now. In the National League, I just talked at length about the rotation, but then I kind of changed it. I'd say anyone from the West, and then the Brewers. And at the end of the day, I pick the Brewers. Most favorite to win the World Series, I think the White Sox. So we have 7 weeks left to play. Obviously, the White Sox are going to win the Central now. Whether they somehow get cold down the stretch, and that's one thing to keep in mind. But we have 7 weeks left to play. Obviously, major injuries have impacted the National League Cy Young and the MVP race, Acuna and Tatis. Acuna, when he got hurt, ended it right there. Tatis, I don't know if we'll have enough to qualify for that MVP race. So that's going to be interesting. Could be filled by someone who clearly wouldn't have won. I think the Cy Young would have been unanimous. MVP, a little less so. American League MVP has to be Shohei. I think Vlad Guerrero could be a finalist as well. You have Vlad. American League Cy Young, you know what? I didn't bring it up. It could be Ohtani, could be Lance Lynn, maybe Garrett Cole as well, just in terms of talking current awards. So this is everything. I thought a short video in the Field of Dreams would just be a 5-10 minute video. Instead, I've turned this into a 45-minute video where I end up talking more than anything about the standings in baseball and just my thoughts in baseball. So that is everything. We thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.